after all these shots, you said they were like debriefed. Was there ever a record, or was there always a record of potential civilian casualties with every single one of these shots?
No. Um, in fact, from what I can remember, um, the collateral damage was never mentioned.
Never, not even thought of.
No, it was like, yeah, we got these individuals. A funny thing, here's a fun little funny story. So pilots are very particular. As much as I hate, especially fighter pilots, their egocentric personalities, they've got a lot of quirky traits. And one of the funny things is that a pilot, after every action, there has to be something called an after action report. And when I first joined the 15th Reconnaissance Squadron, we had so few people that usually it would be the same pilots doing the shots more often than not, and they would write novels. Like, it was like watching someone writing the next script for the next Top Gun. It was like, I was in the seat and I was doing this, and we were watching this action happen, and they would go into so much detail of things that were going on that eventually, because leadership has to read every report, they would be like, keep the report to a paragraph, 6 to 8 sentences. That's it. So, and then it became, after that order came down, it went from being everything reported as what's going on to being like, not even complete sentences. It'd be like, missile came off the rail, missile impacted, missile took out 2 individuals that were labeled as high-profile individuals, mission accomplished, stuff like that. So it wasn't even like, I remember reading one report, and the pilot was like, I was sitting there drinking my coffee, and we got the call from the JTAC to power up our missile. Like, it was just like this thriller that they wanted to write, right? They wanted to be a part of it. I actually knew a pilot who got out and went to Hollywood because he wanted to write. He was so inundated in the Top Gun world that he wanted to write a Top Gun script for drones.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
I'm actually curious about this new Top Gun movie coming out because I hear that there's drones in it.
I didn't even know there was a new Top Gun movie coming out.
It's supposed to come out this year, but it's coming out, or last year, but it's coming out this year.
Really?
Yeah, Top Gun 2, Tom Cruise and everything.
No, they're not doing Tom Cruise again, are they?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. If I ever had the chance, I would actually like to get a conversation with that guy, because there's so many people and so many pilots that just reference Top Gun and him and Maverick and the drones. Like, they wanted to be Maverick. Like, I have more respect for Iceman because Iceman was professional. It was Maverick's mistake that got Goose killed, right?
Right.
And Iceman he's not a bad guy. He was just a strictly disciplined dude, And so many of the pilots that were in the drones were rejects but they felt, because of that, they felt like they didn't belong in the normal group. They were the Maverick. My stalker, Rick Reinerson, wants to be Maverick. He wants to be Maverick. In fact, he labels himself as Django from Django Unchained. Like, he wants to be Django. Like, he has this idea of this egocentric, great personality that he wants to be, but essentially they're just wannabes.
Yeah, well, like we were talking about earlier, it kind of gives them a story, kind of gives them some sort of meaning or purpose, right?
Mm-hmm. I could speak about the military leadership and how they're very poor. The military leadership that was in the program, they didn't fly. Most of them were people that were rejects from other squadrons. About 6 months after my first shot, January, February, March, April, May. 5 months after my first shot, they did something called a patch swap, which shoved majority of the people into Joint Special Operations Command. But a lot of these people that were in military leadership, they didn't actually do the job. They were trained to do it. They would come in, they would do their currencies once a month, and they would get flight pay. And it was like basically double their income, and they wouldn't even be flying. And people like me, we didn't get flight pay. I was probably flying 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts. and I never once got paid or compensated for it. And there are these people that would fly who were in, they'd go to parties and they'd do all these kinds of stuff. If you were part of the good old boys club, you didn't have to fly very much, and you can go and volunteer and pad your enlisted performance report and all sorts of stuff. They would totally discard what was happening overseas and what we were participating in so they could be politically and socially set. And that was a really poor environment. And a lot of the there was at one point a 3-star admiral came in and was like, we want to get the Navy involved in this and send you guys people to train up, and we want our own drones, and I want to talk to your leadership about this. And we sent them a captain, a staff sergeant, and a senior airman. And the guy was like, where are your senior leadership? Where's your upper echelon leadership? And we were like, well, these guys know the most. They've been in the program the longest since it was in prototype. And the guy was like, yeah, this is unsatisfactory. Went to the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of the Air Force and said, we need to put bodies, higher enlisted and officers into these positions. And so they sent out this missive to the entire military that was like, we need people for the drone program. Well, they didn't. No one joins the military to fly remote controlled aircraft. Like, pilots don't join the military to sit in a box to fly remote control. They want to be in the air. They want to be in their machine, and they want to feel it because it fucking gets them off. And so the people who were responding to this were like, yeah, this is a joke. They sent us all their rejects. My first supervisor was a cop reject because no one could fucking stand him. Everyone hated him in his prior squadron. And so they sent him to us. And as a way, well, it's a cross-training opportunity for you to expand your military career and to get promoted. He ended up getting master sergeant because of it. Basically just given it to him. He was a good tester, but he was a terrible human being. And, most of the people were like that. The pilots that were given to us were rejects from their squadrons. They couldn't make flight lead. They couldn't make flight command. They were one of the pilots that I loved to death was he was a B-52 guy, and he would get airsick. So because he couldn't stay in the air, they sent him to drones. There was another pilot that I loved who was my commander in Iraq, and the reason he was an F-16 pilot, and the reason he was no longer an F-16 pilot was because his eyes were going, and he didn't want to get out of the military, forced retirement, so he became a drone operator, right? So we had a lot of these guys with medical problems, and there's a couple good dudes with behavioral problems as well. They spend millions of dollars to train these guys, and then they don't want to get rid of them because if they kick them out of the military, these guys either go to jail or spend the rest of their lives trying to. Ooh, shit! My.
What happened? Your computer fell.
Yeah, my little desk thing is.
All good.
Lay down, bud. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. And these guys that had behavioral problems, I'll use an example for one of them. This guy's, when I started blowing the whistle a couple of years ago, his ex-girlfriend called me up and was like, I need you to reach out to this dude because one of the pilots that you were with is now like, he's in jail, he's drinking, he's gambling, got gambling problems, he's no longer in, he just fucking lost it. Like, he got out and was like, he just lost his shit. One of the women pilots that I was friends with, when we were flying, like, we would complain, like, her and I would be like, this fucking sucks. This is, she was a heavy pilot. So she was a transport, and she was like, I loved flying. Like, that was my dream. And now I'm sitting here murdering people and hunting people down. Like, this is a nightmare. And at one point she was flying a training mission, a local sortie, and she ran the aircraft off the runway. She like had a mental breakdown at when the aircraft was coming off the runway, didn't pull up, and the aircraft just went off the runway. Right.
Jeez.
So a lot of these people would just have mental breakdowns because we weren't getting the support that we needed.